Hello and welcome to another Spider Strategies Quick Score training video. In this video, we'll cover how to use Spider Strategies Connect utility to import measure values and threshold values into an existing Quick Score scorecard. Before we get into Connect, let's take a look at an example of an appropriately formatted import file that will serve well in the Connect utility. The creation of a file like this was covered in another Spider Strategies training video, and we should emphasize that your import file does not have to look exactly like this, but this is a good example containing measure names, some associated measure values, as well as some goal, red flag, or threshold values. There are also some additional descriptive columns which functionally don't serve a purpose in the import process, but can be helpful for documentation and understanding purposes of the nature of the measures in here. Also, we are going to change or update some threshold values during the import process. As well as bringing in monthly values, we also want to adjust some of the goals or red flag or threshold that are set up within an existing scorecard. Again, the creation of an import file like this is covered in another Spider Strategies training video. Another thing we want to do before getting into Connect is just review the nature of the scorecard into which we will import values and threshold information. We'll navigate to the organization of BSC, one-time period, measures and thresholds. We'll open that organization up and just take a look at the BSC scorecard that has already been set up and created in here. It's in the classic balanced scorecard structure of a financial perspective, customer perspective, internal processes, and learning and growth. Each of those perspectives then, of course, are supported by underlying objectives in a variety of numbers throughout the scorecard. And each of the objectives, of course, are fed by values that come for associated or defined measures. You'll see that for August of 2017, we presently do not have any values in for any of the measures within the entire BSC scorecard. However, for July and or June, you see that because we have already either imported or manually entered in values, we have scores all the way up the hierarchy through objectives, perspectives, and up to the scorecard. Another thing to take note of for the different measures that exist in this scorecard is some of the existing goals that have been defined. So if we look at one of the measures, you see that for August of 2017, the goal is presently set to be $25, whereas for July, the goal was set at $20, and for June, the goal was at $18. So the implication here is that a single measure can have different goals in different time periods as appropriate. And again, when we import in the value information for August for all of our measures, we are also going to make a couple minor adjustments to some of the existing goals. So you'll note that for July of 2017, the goals for this measure are 7 and 9, whereas for August, they're presently set to the default of 8 million and 10 million for total cost of energy over last year. And again, our goal is to change those thresholds during the import. So having reviewed the Excel data source as well as the scorecard, let's get into Connect. To access Connect, simply type /Connect at the end of the URL that you use to access QuickScore. That will bring you to a login page, as you see in front of you right now, provide username and password information, and log in to Connect. Once you're at the Connect homepage, it's time to start defining an import process. Towards the upper left, under Imports, we'll click Create New. This will give you a visual map of the steps required to set up an import process, and you simply navigate left to right, addressing each of the required steps. In step 1, we're going to name it, pick a data source, say what we're doing with it, and point to the actual import file. We'll call this BSC August measure values and threshold adjustments. The data is coming from an Excel spreadsheet. We're going to update metric values with the information from the spreadsheet. We'll point to the spreadsheet, open it up, and for training purposes here, we're going to overwrite any existing files because I've used that file in the past. Step 2, clarify time periodicity and help Connect understand the data that will be coming in. This is your opportunity to visually confirm the nature of the data that is coming in from your import source file, as well as define, for instance, the periodicity or the timing that the data should apply to within your scorecard. In this case, we'll use a specific date for this import. We'll select, in our case, the month of August 2017 and the last day of August as our defined date. You also, if you need to, can address negative values, how they should be handled, missing values, how the threshold and the value format should appear, as well as any date formats that are necessary to adjust. You'll note that column A, containing our measure names, is presently not tagged or identified in any way with a yellow header. We're going to drag metric ID/name down onto column A to tell the Connect process what that column contains. You'll see that the other columns of value and several thresholds have already been tagged, and that's because our import file had appropriate column headers to allow Connect to intelligently identify them. Step 3 is where is the data going within our QuickScore scorecard. Again, we'll find the organization that we looked at in QuickScore, which is the one-time period, measures, and thresholds. And over on the right, you see a presentation of that scorecard, very similar to what we saw within QuickScore, with perspectives, objectives, and of course measures. Our goal is to update the entire scorecard, all the measures throughout the scorecard in one fell swoop. So we'll select the BSC scorecard, review the presentation of all the measures down along the bottom, and click OK. Step 4 is confirming the destination of the import data. Again, due to the nature of our import file having been created from the scorecard itself initially in another training video, it automatically maps the name of all of our measures to existing scorecard measures. Okay? If we had not named them perfectly, there could be a situation where, because of typos or just a different naming convention, an import measure name may not be identified or lined up with an existing scorecard measure name, and you can simply drag and drop your measure names to align them appropriately. Lastly, which is optional, is scheduling the import process that we've set up to this point. An easy to use new scheduling in terms of frequency, days, times, and even time zones can be set up. For training purposes, we're not going to schedule this process. And we've stepped through all the mandatory required steps to get this import process set up. We'll click Save, and we'll just go and immediately run that import process through Connect. You'll see it has succeeded on September 13, 2017. And what we now want to do is go see the reward or the fruits of our effort over in QuickScore. We'll navigate back to QuickScore. We'll refresh our browser. And if you now look at the month of August 2017 in our scorecard, you see that we do have value information for measures. We have scores for objectives. We have scores for perspectives. And we have a score, of course, for the overall BSC scorecard. Also, if we take a look at the individual measures that we looked at earlier in terms of goals and thresholds, you'll see that for June and July and August, we do have different goal values set up for this particular measure. And for August of 2017, you may or may not recall the values that we looked at earlier, but they were 8 and 10 previously. And if we now look at June or July or August, you'll see that they've been changed. Congratulations, you just learned how to use Connect to import measure values and thresholds into a QuickScore scorecard. If you have any questions, please contact us at learn@spiderstrategies.com. Thank you.